Hey there, and welcome to the download. It's September, which means it's time for Apple's annual iPhone event, and on Tuesday, September 14th, Apple unveiled the iPhone 13 family, plus a handful of other products like iPads and Apple Watches. The rumor mill was slightly off this year. A lot of people and publications predicted Apple was also going to announce newly designed AirPods and possibly even a new HomePod, but none of that happened. Still, new product season has only just begun, and Apple usually holds a second event in October where it announces new Mac products and other non-iOS devices. So, we'll have to wait and see if any of those items will be announced then. But back to the iPhone 13 event, let's talk about it. Here were the 7 best announcements from Tuesday's show. Number 7, the new iPad. This was easily the most boring announcement of the day, which is why Apple put it first. They want as many people as possible to see this product, even though it's not exciting, because the basic iPad needs the most help. They're great for kids, great for schools, but the basic iPad is just the iPad. It's boring. It's had the same design for years. Apple gave it a faster chip, the 2-year-old A13 Bionic chip, and a better front-facing camera with the center stage feature, which is pretty cool. It basically follows your face if you dip in and out of the frame, but it's otherwise the same old stuff. It starts at $329, so go ahead and buy it for your kids or something, but you can do better if you want the latest and greatest. Number 6, the iPhone 13. I showed Apple's 90-second ad for the iPhone 13 to my wife after the show. She turned to me and said, "This doesn't seem any different from what I already have." And she has the iPhone 11, which is 2 years old now. There's a larger point to be made about Apple's smartphone innovation since the iPhone 10 released back in 2017, the fact it's hardly changed in the 4 years since then. But in terms of this particular phone, there aren't many differences compared to last year's iPhone 12. It has slightly improved performance, slightly improved battery life, a slightly smaller notch, a slightly better camera. It comes in a new color, pink, but that's about it. If you didn't get last year's iPhone, this is Apple basically saying you have another full year to get it. This is, for all intents and purposes, the iPhone 12s. Number 5, the iPhone 13 Pro. That's right, neither new iPhone made the top 3 or even 4 in terms of announcements, and this was the iPhone event. Again, very subtle differences over last year's iPhone 12 Pro. Battery life, performance, cameras, they all get small improvements over last year's model, but if you bought a new iPhone last year, you probably won't notice many differences here. Although, speaking of the camera, this phone does have a few nifty tricks like macro photography, so you can get up close and personal with your subjects, better night mode for low light pics, and that new cinematic mode which is also coming to the iPhone 13. But the big change with this year's iPhone 13 Pro is ProMotion, which is something you're familiar with if you own an iPad Pro. Basically, it's capable of high refresh rates, so movement like scrolling and swiping feels liquid smooth, like you really are touching the display. I own an iPad Pro, and it's a subtle but welcome change that should make a difference when you pick up the phone and use it just casually. Apple says that ProMotion doesn't affect battery life very much, which is a good thing. If anything, Apple says these phones last around 1.5 to 2.5 hours longer than last year's phones, depending on the size you get. The Max, with its bigger size, obviously has a bigger battery. But everything else here feels like a reprise of the iPhone 12 Pro. The squared off stainless steel design, the 5G support, etc. The only one thing that Apple really fell short on this year is the colors. They come in the same 3 colors as last year, gold, white, and black, but they changed out that really nice looking Pacific blue for a lighter blue that they call Sierra, but everyone will surely call baby blue. It looks okay, but I personally prefer dark metallic colors on my iPhone, and I really miss that green color that Apple chose for the iPhone 11 Pro. I wish they would have kept that around. Overall, it looks like a great phone, especially for the camera improvements, but everything else, again, just makes it feel like an in-between year for the iPhone. Hopefully next year's model does better. Number 4, the Apple Watch Series 7. This new Apple Watch looks very attractive, especially in those 5 new colors. Blue, red, midnight black, starlight, which is basically like a beautiful beige or a tan color, and that gorgeous looking green. But aside from the colors and the new screen, which is roughly 20% bigger than last year's Apple Watch, 20% sounds like a lot, but it isn't when you see them side by side, there's really not that much new here. I'm still waiting on the Apple Watch to get a FaceTime camera so I can take video calls on my wrist like I'm in the Jetsons, but we're not there yet, unfortunately. Worth noting, the chips that power the new Series 7 watch are apparently the same brains from last year's Series 6, so no real gains there. Of course, it can also do all the same stuff as previous Apple Watches. Measure your heart, your sleep, your blood oxygen. You can take it running and swimming. It works with Apple's Fitness Plus service so you can track your workouts on a screen as trainers try to pump you up. But the watch itself is just an okay upgrade here. I'm glad they improved the colors, and this new Apple Watch apparently charges 33% faster than last year's Series 6, which is something we would need to test to know for sure, but that's about it. Bigger screen, new colors, faster charging. Otherwise, stick with an Apple Watch you already have. Number 3, Fitness Plus group workouts. This one surprised me a bit. From a group message thread or a FaceTime call, you can watch your friends' activity rings as you all work out together. Thankfully, you can't see their sweaty faces panting and grunting and gasping for air, and they can't see yours. You'll only be able to see their activity rings slowly making progress like your own. But even just knowing that someone is there with you, working out alongside you, albeit virtually, could be a pretty cool motivation tool to keep everyone fit and healthy. I think this is a clever addition to Apple's nascent Fitness Plus offering, and it seems like Apple is aiming directly at Peloton when it comes to interactive workouts. The system is still evolving, so keep an eye on this space. But really nice improvement, really nice feature with group workouts. Number 2, cinematic mode. Year after year, the iPhone continues to crush other smartphones when it comes to video quality and capabilities, and cinematic mode looks like it could push Apple that much further ahead. Cinematic mode, which is available for both the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro models, can automatically switch the focus onto different subjects while you're shooting a video. It can happen automatically if one subject averts their gaze or another subject pops into frame, but it can also be done manually with a tap of your finger. Apple had a nifty video to show off this feature and what it can do, which was a clever demonstration of how cinematic mode should be able to offer up new experiences for amateur filmmakers trying to capture that very specific effect. What's also cool about this is that you can change the focus of cinematic mode even after filming. So while you're sitting down to edit your video, you can optimize the effect to look just the way you want it. Cinematic mode, to be honest, doesn't revolutionize the camera in any way, but it is a fun feature that I'm really betting will show up in TikToks, Instagram videos, most definitely a whole lot of student films. Apple's iPhone cameras are getting closer and closer to professional grade cameras, and it's really impressive to see the evolution. Number 1, the iPad mini. Easily the best, most exciting announcement from Apple's big iPhone 13 event, and it isn't even an iPhone. Well, in some ways, the iPad mini is kind of like a really big iPhone. You can't take calls with it, but it does have FaceTime and 5G, so it's pretty close. Prior to Tuesday's event, the iPad mini hadn't gotten a real design update since 2015 with the 4th generation iPad mini. But now we're looking at the 6th generation model, which features an updated design that brings it in line with the current iPad Air and iPad Pro models. An edge-to-edge display with even bezels all around the perimeter. But instead of having Face ID unlock the device, which the bigger iPads have, the Mini has Touch ID built right into the power button, which I think I actually prefer. Face ID can be a bit finicky on my iPad Pro, and Touch ID is really still the gold standard in terms of unlocking all these years later. I don't use the Apple Pencil very much, to be honest, but I love to hold it, and I use it whenever I can, even just for scrolling, because something about it just feels very satisfying. But speaking of satisfying, the real thing here is that Apple didn't need to do too much to make the iPad mini exciting again. Its new design is nothing new if you've been following the evolution of the iPad over the last several years, but in the form factor of the mini, I'm betting it will be a huge hit with customers. Apple also updated the iPad mini with new chips. It has the same brains that power the new iPhone 13 and 13 Pro models, and it gets a great new liquid retina display. So it's not OLED, but it's a very, very nice LCD screen. It also has better cameras too, but please just use them for FaceTime and random one-off photos. Do not bring this thing to a concert and hold it in the air for an extended period of time. You really shouldn't be filming live events anyway. Just live in the moment, okay? Nobody's going to watch that footage later. The iPad mini starts at $500, so it's really not cheap, but it has a lot going for it. And it's just so adorable. I mean, come on, look at this thing. Apple is clearly going to sell a lot of these things over the holidays, you can bet. So, that is it. Those were the 7 most exciting announcements from Apple's big iPhone 13 event. But now I want to hear from you. What's your ranking? Do you plan on buying any of these products? How are you feeling after this event? Let me know in the comments. Also, please feel free to like this video or subscribe to the channel if you liked what you saw. If you're watching this is my very first YouTube video, so your support really will go a long way. Thanks for watching the download. Until next time.